Kelly had expected her last day at the office to feel like freedom. She had pictured herself walking out of the glass building with a light heart, a clear mind, and maybe even a triumphant smile. Instead, her chest felt tight, her eyes burned from holding back tears, and her throat carried that familiar ache of doubt. Leaving wasn't a mistake. She knew that. For years, she dreamed of doing something creative, something that felt like her. But reality had been crueler than dreams. Bills, rent, responsibility. They made people stay in places their hearts had left long ago. Until now, Kelly closed her locker one last time. The metallic clink echoed through the empty hallway. After hours, the office felt like a museum of choices she'd grown tired of making. Safe ones, quiet ones, comfortable ones that slowly suffocated her. She grabbed her bag, took a deep breath, and pushed open the heavy door leading to the main corridor. And there he was. Peter, her boss, well, former boss now, the one man in this dull gray building who somehow stood out from the rest. Tall, athletic, the kind of person who looked like he cycled to work at sunrise and climbed mountains on weekends. His presence always felt bigger than the office, as if he wasn't meant to stay trapped behind spreadsheets and endless schedules either. He turned when he heard her footsteps. His expression was unreadable, yet there was something softer in his eyes than she had ever seen before. "You're really leaving," Peter said quietly, not accusing, not disappointed, just stating a truth that seemed to hang between them. "I am," Kelly replied, trying to smile. "Time to finally do something for myself." He nodded once, slowly. "I know." He stepped closer. Not in a threatening way, not even in a romantic way, just closer. Close enough that she could smell the faint trace of pine from the shampoo he always used. Close enough that she felt something shift, like the moment right before a storm breaks. Kelly swallowed. "I should go," she whispered. Peter's jaw tightened as if he were battling something inside himself. For a second, she thought he would turn away, let her walk out, let this be just another quiet ending in her life. But instead, he leaned in, not touching her. Not even close enough for her to feel his breath, just enough to make her heart freeze. His voice was low, rough, almost as if the words hurt to say, "I've been waiting for you to leave." Kelly blinked, stunned. "So I'd finally have the right to kiss you." It was a whisper, but it landed like thunder. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and something frighteningly close to hope. She had always felt a pull toward him, gentle, quiet, buried under professionalism and rules. She thought she'd imagined the way he sometimes lingered in the doorway during meetings, how his eyes softened when she laughed, how he always noticed when she was overwhelmed. She'd convinced herself it meant nothing. "No," Kelly breathed, almost to herself. "You can't say that now." Peter straightened slightly, but he didn't step away. His face was unreadable, calm, steady, the way he looked when facing something difficult but necessary. "I had no right before," he said. "You were my employee. I kept a line. I never wanted to make you uncomfortable." "You didn't," she whispered, "but this is too much." "Maybe," he admitted, but it's the truth." Kelly shook her head, trying to break the spell of the moment. She forced a laugh that didn't belong to her. "Well, you said it. And I'm leaving. So, goodbye, Peter." He opened his mouth, closed it again, and finally stepped aside to let her pass. She walked by him, her pulse racing so fast it made her dizzy. The cool evening air outside did nothing to steady her. She leaned against the building, staring at the streetlights glittering through the dusk like tiny golden stars. Why would he say that? Why today? Why her? She pressed her palms to her face. "I cannot deal with this right now." Kelly forced herself to start walking. Home was only 10 minutes away, but tonight it felt like miles. Every step pulled her deeper into a fog of confusion. Her phone vibrated. A message from Peter. Her stomach dropped. She opened it slowly, as if the words might burn. "I won't get in your way, but please only let me see you tonight. One last time. Not as your boss, as myself." Kelly stared at the screen for a long, impossible moment. She should say no. She knew she should say no, but her fingers trembled, her chest tightened. A part of her, hidden, foolish, hopeful, wanted to understand what that whisper really meant. She didn't reply. Not yet. She walked, lost in her thoughts, until she reached her apartment building and froze because Peter was there. Standing by the entrance, hands in his pockets, looking more uncertain than she had ever seen him. The streetlight framed him in soft gold. His athletic build, usually so strong and confident, seemed almost hesitant now. He wasn't here to push. He wasn't here to demand anything. He was just waiting. "This wasn't the plan," Kelly said, her voice barely above a breath. "I know," Peter replied. "I wasn't sure you'd answer. I didn't want to leave that message hanging." "So you came here?" she asked, stunned. "I came," he said simply, "to return this." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small sketch notebook. Her notebook, the one she kept in her desk, filled with half-formed ideas for the creative work she wanted to do. The dream she'd never dared to say out loud in front of him. She took it, speechless. "You forgot it," he said, and I thought, it matters. The sincerity in his voice cut through her defenses. She looked at him again. Really looked. And something inside her shifted. Maybe he wasn't here to complicate her life. Maybe he was here because he cared. Maybe he always had. "Peter," she started, not sure what she wanted to say. He lifted a hand gently. "You don't owe me anything," he said softly. "Just, give me 1 hour. Let me talk to you without the walls of that office between us." Kelly stood there, notebook in hand, heart pounding, caught between fear and curiosity. 1 hour, one chance to hear the side of him she had never known. She inhaled slowly. "Tomorrow," she said. Peter's eyes brightened, not victory, not triumph, just warmth, relief. "Tomorrow," he repeated. And for the first time that day, Kelly felt something like excitement bloom under her ribs. Something new, something dangerous, something beautiful, something that all started with a whisper. Kelly barely slept that night. She kept replaying the moment in front of her building, Peter standing under the warm streetlight, her sketch notebook in his hands, his expression sincere and unexpectedly vulnerable. It felt surreal. For years, he'd been the definition of strength and control. Sharp mind, steady voice, athletic posture, always calm, always composed. But last night he looked different, like a man who had finally stopped hiding something. By morning, her nerves were a tangled knot. She spent hours reorganizing her shelves, touching the rows of essential oils, jars, wicks, and molds she'd collected for months. She had dreamed of making handmade candles for so long, candles shaped like blooming roses, candles poured into vintage teacups, candles inspired by emotions and stories in places she had never visited. "Today will be normal," she told herself, pouring wax into a steel pot. "Normal, peaceful, regular." The wax bubbled gently. Her heart did not feel normal at all. At exactly 3 p.m., there was a knock at her door. Kelly froze for half a second before she forced herself to move. When she opened the door, Peter stood there, wearing a simple dark green t-shirt, running shoes, and a jacket slung over his arm. He looked less like a boss and more like someone who lived outdoors, someone who biked at dawn, ran in the rain, climbed cliffs for fun, someone alive. And he was smiling, not his polite professional smile, a real one. "Hi," he said softly. Kelly swallowed. "Hi." He glanced inside. May I come in?" She hesitated, not because she didn't want him to, but because his presence felt too large for her small apartment, but she stepped aside anyway. As soon as he walked in, Peter stopped and looked around, not in a judgmental way, more like he was trying to understand her world. "You started already," he said, noticing the wax, the scents, the soft glow of sunlight reflecting on the glass jars. Kelly shrugged, suddenly shy. "Just experimenting. I'm not a real business yet." He stepped closer to the table, picked up a tiny candle she'd poured yesterday, a delicate lavender-colored piece shaped like a small blooming flower. "This is beautiful," he said. "Thank you," she murmured. "Not because you're my He paused. Then he corrected himself quietly. Not because I know you. It's genuinely good. Something warm moved behind her ribs. Tea? Kelly asked quickly, needing a distraction. I'd love some, Peter replied. She busied herself with cups and boiling water, while he watched her with quiet, curious eyes. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, just new. Different. Finally, she sat across from him at her small kitchen table. Okay, Kelly exhaled. So, you wanted to talk. Peter nodded once. Yes, but he didn't rush. He took a sip of his tea, placed the cup down, and looked at her with a calmness that made her feel strangely safe. I didn't plan to say that yesterday, he admitted. The whisper. The confession. Kelly's cheeks heated. I figured. I kept it to myself for a long time, he continued. Longer than I should have. She raised an eyebrow. How long? He hesitated, but only for a moment. 2 years. Kelly almost choked on her tea. Peter, what? Why? Because it would have been wrong, he said simply. You were part of my team. I had rules. I keep them. Always. Kelly stared at him, stunned. 2 years? I didn't even know you noticed me. He gave her a look that made her breath hitch. I noticed everything. Silence. Heavy. Electric. Kelly looked away first. That doesn't make sense, she whispered. You were always so distant. So strict. I had to be, he said gently. If I let myself be anything else, people would have noticed, including you. Kelly didn't know what to say. He leaned back, his gaze softening. But now you left, and I'm free to be honest. So you want... what exactly? He didn't hesitate this time. To get to know you, for real, outside that office. Outside the roles we played, Kelly's heart thudded painfully. But you barely know me, she said in a small voice. Peter smiled, one corner of his mouth lifting slightly, like he was amused in the most tender way possible. Kelly, I know you care about details more than anyone I ever met. You pick the lemon tea when you're sad and the mint tea when you're stressed. You stay late not because someone forces you to, but because you hate leaving things half-finished. And you sketch when you're thinking. She blinked, overwhelmed. I noticed, he finished softly. I just never said it. Her pulse fluttered. I didn't come here to ask for anything, he added. And I'm not rushing you, I just wanted you to know the truth. Kelly felt the tension in her shoulders loosen slowly. Then Peter surprised her again. He stood up, walked to her candle-making table and picked up a small bottle of essential oil. Vanilla? He asked. And cedarwood, she said. I'm testing a blend. It smells good. You don't even know yet. I have faith, he replied, turning the bottle in his hand. Actually, may I help? She blinked. Help with candle making? Yes. You don't even know how. I can learn. Kelly laughed softly. Why would you want to? He looked at her with an honesty so clear it made her chest tighten. Because it's important to you, he said simply. And I want to understand what you love. Her breath caught. No one had ever said something like that to her. Okay, she whispered, but don't burn yourself. I burn myself regularly, he said with a straight face, mostly during triathlon training. She stared at him. That's supposed to make me feel better? He shrugged. Depends. Kelly rolled her eyes, but her smile refused to fade. For the next hour, Peter helped her measure wax, stir gently, test scents, clean containers. He wasn't clumsy, but he wasn't flawless either. When he spilled a bit of wax on the counter, he looked at her like a guilty child. Don't fire me, he said. You don't work for me, she replied. His smile widened. Exactly. The air between them shifted, lighter, softer, filled with an unspoken warmth. When they finished a small test candle together, she handed it to him. For you, Kelly said. He held it carefully, like it was something precious. Thank you. Peter looked at her for a long moment. I'd like to see you again, he said quietly. Kelly's stomach fluttered painfully, not fear, expectation. When? she asked before she could stop herself. His lips curved. Tomorrow, early, sunrise. Kelly groaned. Peter. You'll like it, he promised. I want to show you something. Then, after a pause, and I want to show you who I am outside the office. She swallowed. Okay, she whispered. Peter stepped toward the door, paused, and looked back. I'm glad you left, he said softly. Not because you quit the job, but because now you get to start something that's yours. Really yours. Kelly felt her heart expand painfully. Beautifully. Good night, Kelly. Good night, Peter. When he left, her apartment smelled like warm vanilla and something new she couldn't name yet, but she knew one thing. Tomorrow, everything would change again. Kelly woke before her alarm. It was still dark outside, the kind of soft, velvety darkness that made the world feel quiet and untouched. She lay there for a moment staring at the faint outline of her curtains, wondering why her heart felt like it was already running a marathon. Then she remembered. Peter. Sunrise. Let me show you who I am. She groaned into her pillow. Who wakes up at dawn voluntarily except insane people and birds? But she was already getting up. Already reaching for a hoodie and tying her hair into a loose knot, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror, a sleepy, uncertain version of herself with a spark in her eyes she hadn't seen in a long time. She tried to smother that spark. She failed. At 5:35 a.m., her phone buzzed. Peter, I'm downstairs. She pulled on her shoes, grabbed her keys, and headed out. The dawn air was crisp, cool, and smelled faintly of morning dew. And there he was, leaning against his bike, helmet clipped to the handlebar, wearing a fitted athletic jacket that made it painfully obvious he belonged in the world of mountains and early sunrises. He smiled when he saw her, that soft, warm smile that wasn't meant for the office, the one she now realized he probably hid there. Hey, he said. Do you do this every morning? She muttered, rubbing her arms. Be honest. If you say yes, I'm going back to bed. He laughed, and the sound hit her like sunlight. Unexpected, warm, ridiculously charming. I usually start earlier, he said, but I wanted to take you somewhere you'd actually be able to see the sunrise without hating me. Kelly glared. I already hate you a little. No, you don't. I might. He shook his head. Nope. Kelly tried not to smile, failed again. He offered her a helmet he'd been holding. She blinked. You want me to get on that bike with you? Yes. I don't trust your life choices. You don't have to, Peter said calmly. Just trust me. Those two words hit different. Trust me. She exhaled slowly, took the helmet, and climbed onto the back of the bike. Her hands hesitated before settling lightly around his waist. You can hold on tighter, he said quietly. No, I'm good. The bike started moving. She immediately grabbed him properly, fingers tightening against his jacket. His body was warm beneath her hands, solid and strong. She felt his breath catch for a moment, just a moment, before he cleared his throat and focused on the road. The city was still asleep as they rode through the empty streets. Streetlights blinked softly, and the sky began shifting from black to deep indigo. After about 15 minutes, Peter stopped at the edge of a trail that led upward toward a hill overlooking the city. We walk from here, he said. Kelly stared at the path. Walk where? You'll see. I swear, if this ends with a cliff, it won't. It better not. He chuckled, grabbed a small backpack, and offered his hand. She didn't take it. Not because she didn't want to, but because she was afraid of how easy it would be to want more once she did. But as they climbed, the path steep but manageable, Peter kept a slow pace, matching her steps. When she stumbled on a rock, he caught her elbow gently, steadying her without saying anything. He didn't make her feel weak. He didn't push or pull. He simply held her for a second longer than necessary, then let go when she was ready. By the time they reached the top, Kelly was breathless. Not from the climb, but from the sight. The city sprawled below them like a sea of tiny lights, fading away as the first blush of sunrise painted the sky. Pink, gold, soft lavender, colors that looked too delicate to be real. Oh, she breathed, stunned. Peter didn't look at the sky. He looked at her. You see why I wanted to bring you here? He asked. Kelly nodded slowly. It's beautiful. It is. he agreed quietly. But I wanted you to see something else too. She turned to him. What? He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small bag. He opened it and took out supplies, wax, wicks, a portable double boiler, essential oils, tiny jars. Kelly blinked. Are we making candles? Up here? He nodded, slightly shy for the first time since she'd known him. I thought, since you're starting your candle business, maybe your first official design could be inspired by something memorable, something worth building your new life on. Her throat tightened. He set everything down carefully on a flat rock and continued, So I thought we could create a candle that smells like this morning. Kelly stared at him, stunned. Peter, you don't know anything about candles. I can learn, he repeated with that same simple sincerity from yesterday. But why? She whispered. Why are you doing all of this? He held her gaze, steady, unwavering. Because I want to support what you're building, he said softly. Your work, your dreams. You spent so long giving your time to something that didn't feed your soul. I want you to have something that does. Her eyes stung. She blinked fast. Peter, he moved closer, but not too close. Just enough that she could feel the warmth of him in the cool morning air. You're brave, he said. Braver than you know. You left something safe to create something uncertain. That takes courage most people never find. Kelly looked away, overwhelmed. Or I'm not as brave as you think. You are, he said firmly. Or you just don't see it yet. He handed her a small bottle. Try this, he said. It reminded me of this place. She opened it and inhaled. Fresh pine, dew, earth. A hint of crisp morning air. And somehow, it smelled like possibility. It's perfect, Kelly whispered. Peter smiled, proud and quiet. They worked together in peaceful silence, measuring, melting, blending. He followed her instructions with surprising precision. When she laughed at his serious expression, he bumped her shoulder lightly. As the sun rose, they poured the first candle into a small glass jar. The wax glowed warm and golden in the newborn light. Kelly held it carefully. This was more than wax, more than scent, more than a product. This was her beginning. Peter watched her with that same soft look she was starting to recognize, the one he probably hid for 2 years. You did great, he said. We did great, Kelly corrected. His smile widened. We did. For a moment, they just stood there, watching the sun rise fully over the horizon. The sky exploded with color. Kelly felt the warmth on her skin, in her chest, deep in a place she had kept quiet for years. Thank you, she said softly. This means more than you know. Peter's voice was low, honest. I meant every word yesterday. I kept a line for years, but now I want to know you, the real you, not the version trapped behind a desk. Her heartbeat quickened. And I want you to know me too, he added. Not the boss, not the guy in control, just Peter. Kelly looked at him, really looked, at the man who got up before sunrise, at the man who helped her make a candle on a hilltop, at the man who saw her even when she hadn't seen herself. The wind lifted her hair gently, the golden light framed his face. I want that too, she whispered. Peter inhaled slowly, as if those words mattered more than she realized. The moment stretched between them, warm, fragile, new. Then he said, with a small, beautiful smile, Tomorrow, same time. I want to show you the river trail. Kelly groaned. Peter, why do all your plans start before sunrise? Because the world is quieter then, he replied. It's easier to hear what matters. Her heart fluttered, and for the first time in a long time, Kelly felt like she was stepping into a life that finally belonged to her. The next morning, Kelly woke with a familiar flutter in her chest, nervous, excited, confused, hopeful, a ridiculous cocktail of emotions she never expected Peter to be capable of stirring in her. But the moment she stepped outside and saw him waiting, leaning against his bike again, hair slightly messy from the wind, coffee in hand, that flutter exploded. You're early, she said. So are you, he replied, handing her one of the coffees. Mint latte with a hint of honey. You like that when you're trying something new? She blinked. How do you keep noticing everything? He shrugged lightly. I pay attention. And it didn't feel creepy, didn't feel intense. It felt respectful, warm, like someone finally saw her without trying to change her. They rode in silence toward the river trail, the wind crisp against their cheeks, the city slowly waking up behind them. The river reflected early light, silver and soft, and birds skimmed low across the water. Peter stopped near a wooden dock and turned to her. Today is easier, he said, just a walk. Kelly laughed. After climbing a hill before sunrise, anything is easier. He smiled. Fair point. They walked side by side along the path. Kelly noticed how relaxed he seemed here. No pressure of leadership, no rhythm of meetings, no office persona. His shoulders were looser, his steps lighter. She could imagine him running here every morning, clearing his mind, finding quiet strength. So, Peter said, glancing at her, how is the candle project going? Good, Kelly said. Actually, better than I expected. I posted the sunrise candle on my page yesterday. And people liked it, really liked it. Peter's smile grew. They should. It's beautiful. She looked down, hiding a small blush. It was your idea. Your hands made it, he corrected her. I just gave you the view. Her chest tightened in that soft, dangerous way she was starting to get used to. They walked in comfortable silence for a while before she asked, Why did you never say anything about what you felt? He stopped. The river flowed quietly beside them. The early sun caught in his eyes, turning them warm and gold. Because I wasn't the man I wanted to be for you, he said. Not rushed, not dramatic, just honest. Kelly blinked. Peter, what do you mean? You saw me at work, he replied. Structured, serious, focused, but that wasn't all of me. Not even close. I hid everything else because I didn't want my life to spill into yours. What life? She whispered. He hesitated, looked at the water, then at her. The life I live when the office isn't looking. There was a quiet weight to his words, not dark, not secretive, just deeper than she expected. I run ultra-marathons, he said. Mountain trails, desert races, long-distance swims, anything that pushes me. I've been doing them for years. Kelly's eyes widened. That's intense, he nodded. It is. Why? He looked at her, voice softening. Because pain has direction. It teaches you things, it demands honesty, it takes everything fake out of you. She inhaled slowly, something in his tone, something in the way he said it made her chest ache. Is that why you noticed me? She asked gently. Partly. He took a small step closer. And partly because you were one of the few people in that building who still had softness left. You didn't let work drain it out of you? He paused. And I admired that more than I should have. Kelly swallowed. Why did it feel like he was pouring pieces of his heart into the morning air? Peter, she murmured, you talk like I'm stronger than you. He gave a tiny breath of amusement. You are. That's not true. It is, he said, eyes steady on hers. You left something safe because it didn't feed your soul. That takes a kind of courage I never had. I faced mountains because it was easier than facing change. Her throat tightened. She didn't know what to say. They reached a small bend in the path, trees arching overhead, sunlight spilling in narrow beams through the leaves. He turned to her suddenly. Kelly, can I show you something? Sure. He led her to a bench, a simple wooden bench facing the river. On it sat a long box. Kelly blinked. What's that? A gesture, he said quietly. Something I started working on yesterday after I left your place. She opened the box slowly. Inside was a small wooden mold, beautifully carved, smooth, shaped with care, a candle mold, but not just any mold. It was shaped like a sunrise cresting over a hill. Her breath caught. Oh my God, Peter, did you make this? He rubbed the back of his neck, a bit embarrassed. I tried. I'm not exactly a woodworker, but I called a friend who is. He guided me. I just wanted, I wanted you to have something special, something that felt like a beginning. Kelly touched the carved edge with trembling fingers. This wasn't a simple gift. This was effort, time, thought, heart. Peter, she whispered. "No one has ever done something like this for me." "I wanted to," he said softly. "And I wanted you to know I meant everything I told you about believing in your work, your courage, you." The warmth behind her eyes became too much. "Why me?" she breathed. "Why all this?" He didn't step closer. He didn't rush. He just looked at her with a sincerity that made her breath tremble. "Because I've spent years pushing down everything I felt. And now that I don't have to, now that I'm free to choose, I choose you. Not because you're perfect, not because of some fantasy, but because your presence feels right." Her heart stumbled. "And you don't have to feel the same," he added quickly. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know who I am and what I'm capable of when someone matters to me." She stared at him, eyes softening, heart opening in ways she didn't expect. "Peter," she whispered. He waited, patiently, calmly, like a man who understood the value of time. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything." "Why now?" He exhaled, the truth falling from his lips without resistance. "Because watching you leave made me realize something I should have known long ago." He held her gaze. "I don't want to miss my chance with you." Silence, heavy, electric, warm. Kelly stepped forward, closer than before, close enough to see the tiny flecks of gold in his eyes, close enough to feel his breath. "You didn't miss it," she whispered. "Not yet." Peter inhaled slowly, as if those words were air he'd been starving for. They stood there, the world quiet around them, the river whispering softly at their feet. He didn't touch her. He waited for her to close the distance, and for the first time, Kelly didn't hesitate. She reached up, fingers brushing his cheek lightly, gently, like the beginning of something fragile and new. Peter stilled, his breath hitched. "Kelly," he whispered, but she silenced him with a soft, trembling kiss. A kiss that wasn't rushed, wasn't perfect, wasn't desperate. A kiss full of beginnings. When she pulled back, Peter was looking at her as if sunrise lived inside her. She smiled softly. "You wanted honesty," she murmured. "There it is." He laughed under his breath, voice rough with emotion. "You have no idea what you just did to me," he said. Kelly's cheeks warmed. "Good." Peter leaned his forehead against hers, gentle, grounding, full of unspoken promise. "Tomorrow," he whispered. "I want to take you somewhere else." She breathed in slowly. "Where?" He smiled. "The climbing wall." Kelly groaned dramatically. "Peter!" "You'll love it," he said. "I'll make sure of it." She rolled her eyes, but her heart soared, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of where tomorrow would lead. Kelly spent half the night turning the wooden mold over in her hands, tracing the carved sunrise, feeling the warmth of Peter's effort inside the grain. That kiss still lingered on her lips, soft, surprising, terrifying in the best way. She barely slept, but for the first time in months, she didn't feel tired. She felt alive. The next day, when she arrived at the climbing gym he mentioned, Peter was already inside, tying a harness, checking ropes with the same focused precision he brought to everything. But there was something else too, a softness in the way he looked at her when she stepped through the door. "Ready to suffer?" he asked with a smirk. "Not remotely," she said, laughing, "but I'm here. That's all I need." He handed her a harness, helped her step into it, cinched the straps with a gentleness that made her pulse skip. His fingers brushed her hips for barely a second, but the electricity hit her like a spark. When she stepped back, her cheeks were warm. Peter pretended not to notice, or maybe he did, and chose to spare her. He clipped her into the rope, checking every knot, every buckle. "You're safe," he said quietly. "Nothing happens until you're comfortable." "Okay," she whispered. "Look up," he said. She did. The climbing wall towered above her, high, steep, dotted with bright holds that seemed much farther away than they should have. Kelly swallowed. "You're kidding." "No," he said, smiling softly, "but I'll be with you the whole time, step by step." Something about the certainty in his voice made her trust him instantly, made the wall look just a little less impossible. "All right," she said, taking a breath. "Let's do it." Peter's smile widened. She made her first move, awkward, uncertain, gripping the nearest hold too tightly. Her arms trembled slightly. She wasn't afraid of heights, but she was definitely afraid of falling in front of him. "Relax your shoulders," Peter said from below, voice steady. "Your legs are stronger than your arms. Use them." She exhaled and tried again. Step, reach, push. Each movement felt like learning a new language, a language her body wasn't fluent in yet. But Peter didn't rush her, didn't tease. He guided calmly, steadily, giving her space to discover what she could do. Halfway up, she froze. "Peter, I've got you," he said immediately, pulling the rope just tight enough to let her feel the support. "You're safe." Her breathing slowly steadied. "You're doing great," he added. "Trust yourself." She closed her eyes, inhaled, exhaled, then reached up. Her fingers found a hold she didn't even notice before. She pushed upward, climbing again, inch by inch, until she touched the top. Kelly let out a breath that sounded like a laugh, like disbelief, like victory. "Peter!" she called down, voice cracking with triumph. "I did it!" His smile from below was pure pride. "Of course you did." She descended slowly, and when her feet touched the ground, Peter unclipped her harness with gentle hands. "How do you feel?" he asked. Kelly looked up at the wall, breath still uneven. "Stronger than I thought." He nodded. "You always were." She met his eyes, warm, steady, so full of silent admiration it almost knocked the air out of her. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." He gave a quiet laugh. "You don't have to thank me for caring." "I do," she insisted, "because I'm not used to this. People don't usually—" She searched for the right words. "Show up the way you do." Peter stepped closer, slowly, deliberately. "I'll show up every time," he said, "and unless you tell me not to." Her breath hitched. Before she could respond, a gym manager walked over. "Hey, Peter, you forgot your membership card again?" Kelly blinked. "You come here that often?" Peter rubbed the back of his neck. Maybe." The manager chuckled. "He's basically furniture here," then walked off. Kelly raised an eyebrow. "So this place is practically your second home." He shrugged. "It keeps me grounded and sane." Then he looked at her. "And today, it brought you here. So, I'm grateful for it." Her cheeks warmed again. They climbed more, nothing extreme, nothing terrifying, but each wall felt easier. Each move felt more natural. Each moment with Peter felt steadier. After an hour, they sat on the floor in a quiet corner of the gym, drinking water, catching their breath. Kelly leaned back against the wall, feeling the pleasant ache spreading through her muscles. "You good?" Peter asked. "I think I'm dying," she said. "You're fine," he replied, brushing a loose hair from her face with a touch so light she barely felt it. "You surprised me today." "How?" "You didn't give up," she snorted. "I wanted to at least 5 times, but you kept going." He tapped her knee lightly. "That's what matters." Silence settled, warm and comfortable. Then Peter shifted slightly, turning toward her. "I want to ask you something," he said, voice calmer than she expected. "Okay, when you kissed me yesterday, what did it mean for you?" Her breath steadied. Her hands folded in her lap. She didn't want to overthink, not with him. "It meant I wanted to," she said softly. "It meant I felt safe and drawn to you and curious about you and maybe a little bit afraid of what it means." He nodded slowly. "Afraid of me?" "No," she said quickly. "Afraid of wanting something real? Afraid it could hurt." Peter inhaled, eyes deepening with something warm, steady, protective. "I won't hurt you," he said. "Not intentionally, not ever." Her heart softened. "And what about you?" she asked quietly. "Why did you want me to kiss you back?" He let out a slow breath. "Because I've been imagining it every day for a long time," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And because it felt like a beginning I didn't want to miss." The world around them grew quieter. The gym noise fell away. Only the rhythm of their breathing remained. "Kelly," he said softly, "can I—" "Yes," she whispered before he even finished. He leaned in. This kiss was different, deeper, intentional, full of the connection that had been quietly forming between them, growing with every dawn, every conversation, every moment of trust. Kelly felt her fingers slide into his hair, felt his hand settle gently at her waist, felt the world tilt, just enough to make room for possibility. When they finally pulled away, her forehead rested against his. "What happens now?" she murmured. Peter smiled, a slow, certain smile that made her stomach flip. "Now," he said, "I keep showing up." He brushed his thumb across her cheek. "For as long as you'll let me." Kelly exhaled a soft, full breath. "I'm not sending you away," she whispered. "Good," he said, "because I'm not planning on going anywhere." He pressed one last gentle kiss to her forehead. "Tomorrow," he said. She smiled. "Another challenge?" He nodded. "A good one. Trust me." Kelly intertwined her fingers with his. "I already do." And for the first time in her life, the future felt not frightening, but wide open and beautifully bright.